Can a video game make you so excited that it gives you a headache? Because Trails of Cold Steel 2 just blew my freaking mind. I've been on a journey to play through the entire Trails of series for the last year and a half now, and I just finished Trails of Cold Steel 2, which you can actually see the entirety of that playthrough here on the channel. And as I've had more time to think about Trails of Cold Steel 2, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, but overall, I think I really enjoyed the game. Trails of Cold Steel 2 picks up shortly after Trails of Cold Steel 1 ends, with Rean flying off in Valimar, escaping the attack on Trista. Cold Steel 2 opens with Rean, Selene, and Valimar wind up in the mountains outside of Emir, and Valimar needs to recharge his batteries because he used up a lot of mana to escape Trista. And this is where things really start off, as Rean goes back home, cleans himself up, gets his back washed a little bit. No, Elise, that's weird. He sets out on a journey to recollect the members of Class 7 and help stop the civil war that is going on in Erebonia. Problem is now he is going up against the Noble Alliance, which is led by Duke Cayenne and Rufus Alberea. Yes, Eustace's brother. Accompanying them is a pair of Jaegers, members of Ouroboros, and your old classmate Crow. And I gotta say, this game is broken up into two different acts that changes the structure of the games that we've been used to from the past. Like normally it's just chapters, but this time it's Act 1, then you go through different parts, you go into Act 2, then there's different parts there, and then it goes on from there. And if I were to talk about each of these acts specifically, set alone by themselves, I think I would have to say I liked Act 1 better than Act 2. You see, in Act 1, it's all about getting Class 7 back together. It has notes of Final Fantasy VI that really kind of resonated with me, and I really enjoyed getting every member of Class 7 back together. And I have to say, the voice acting in this game is incredible. The moment when you first meet Machias again, and he's paired up with Elliot and Fee, just the voice acting from Machias's voice actor, where he chokes up and you can tell he's really stifling back some emotion. It's just really good voice acting. It just kind of speaks for the entirety of this game. The voice acting is just really, really good. And so as you're going through and getting members back, you'll kind of do a big mission that will culminate in a fight with Valimar against some soldats, and then you'll be giving a sort of free day where you can go hang out with members of Class 7. Guys, this game is so much like Mobile Suit Gundam, where they need to have a mech fight in Mobile Suit Gundam is every episode, but here it's like every act there needs to be a mech fight. And use your bonding events points. But this all culminates into Act 2, where Act 2 feels a little more sloppy, there's not much of a focus in Act 2. Act 2 feels like you're kind of meandering through the story to get to the Infernal Tower at the end of the game. Honestly, this is where I've heard complaints that people say that Trails of Cold Steel 2 is the shortest Cold Steel game in the series, even though it took me over 70 hours to beat Cold Steel 2. I feel like this game did drag on in parts, specifically in Act 2. That being said, I did enjoy Act 2, getting into the Courageous, which is this game's version of Sky's Arsail, which is kind of funny because it feels like Cold Steel is copying a lot of themes and elements from the Sky games. But I enjoyed being on board the Courageous. I loved the idea of going out and recruiting the scattered Thor's military students, who would then open up shops or provide new services aboard the Courageous that would help you on your journey to ending the civil war in Erebonia. Now, I realize I'm skipping over a lot in doing this brief summary of the story, so if there's something that you want to talk about specifically, let me know down in the comments below. But I enjoyed seeing the different types of character development, specifically with Rean as he learns kind of his role and his responsibility in the middle of this war and kind of what he's supposed to be doing. There's a few points where Class 7 realizes they can't just be passive bystanders on the sidelines. They have to get in and interact and engage, and in some ways, choose a side. You see the fallout of their lack of decision making in a few different scenes, and Rean sees this as well, and his inability to rise up to the occasion. that is really kind of heightened with Vulcan's death. Rean is torn up over this. And so when he goes and fights Scarlet and her Soldat, and she's about to die, he kind of rises up to the occasion and rescues her. And you see Rean kind of finally stepping into this position or role of being the hero that he's supposed to be. But not only that, you see him as the nucleus of Class 7 and gathering everybody and encouraging everybody to continue to do what he needs them to do, and really not just what he needs to do, but what Erebonia needs them to do as well. But this is where the game kind of shows a little bit of a flaw, so to speak. When I was streaming this game, there was someone in chat who mentioned that, or pointed out that Class 7 really only interacts with Rean. They don't necessarily interact with one another. Sure, you have Eustace and Machias, of course, going back and forth with one another and kind of having that rivalry banter going on. But really, it's the characters are primarily interacting with Rean, whereas in the previous Sky games, you'd have all the characters in your party interacting with one another to a degree. Cold Steel 2 kind of makes it hard to get to know all of your characters, because since they all interact with Rean primarily, the only way to get that character development is to use your bonding points to see that character development. Unfortunately, you're only given a limited amount of bonding points, and so you don't get to see all your characters' bonding events within Class 7 in one playthrough unless you save scum. And so I feel like I didn't connect with some characters in ways that I probably should have because of that. And that was something that I sorely missed, and it's something I didn't really touch on in my review for Cold Steel 1 because I wanted to play Cold Steel 2 and see, okay, did they change this at all? And they unfortunately didn't. Now, what they did manage to do is make me care about all of the members of Class 7. As I left Cold Steel 1 and got into Cold Steel 2, there was a few characters I didn't really care for, or how annoying Millie was. Sorry, I couldn't stand Millie.
Oh, fine.
But in this game, I found myself caring about all of Class 7. I cared about their struggles. I wanted to know more about them. But the characters I did connect with, or at least one that I can think of most prominently, is Eustace. Throughout the game, Eustace's dad is just causing chaos and doing his own thing and just making people's lives extremely difficult. And you see Eustace struggle with this. You see him trying to change things from the inside out, but he realizes he just has to confront his dad head on. But you see him dealing with this guilt, and there, it reaches this moment in Celtic where you're talking to Becky's dad during a bonding event, and you see Eustace really struggling with whether or not he can even face these people. But Becky's dad says, don't worry about it. We don't put that blame on you. That's not your responsibility. And you can just feel the weight lifting from Eustace's shoulders. It's a powerful moment, and I really enjoyed seeing Eustace's development throughout the game as he just kind of rose to the occasion and became his own man in this game. I also really enjoyed getting to know Laura more. Laura was one of my favorite characters from Cold Steel 1, and I love seeing her develop more in this game. Just her level of integrity and dignity is inspiring and just really cool to see, and it's a good balance with Rean as well. That's why I thought those two really kind of paired well together, but apparently Kondo thinks Elisa is the best fit for Rean, but we can agree to disagree. And even Millie, I didn't really care about Milliam in Cold Steel 1. I thought she was annoying. I didn't really like her. But in Cold Steel 2, I was like, she's funny. She brings a lot of warmth to Class 7. She helps lift people's spirits. And she just doesn't have a filter, which is both good and bad at times. But she was good. I loved having her there. And that's kind of how I felt about Class 7 as a whole. But I do have to say, I do have to agree, I think the cast of Cold Steel is way too big. It's hard to invest in all of the characters at one time. I felt like Trails in the Sky the Third handled a big cast better than what Cold Steel has done so far. Now I'm currently playing Cold Steel 3, and we'll see if things change. That's kind of my thoughts on Cold Steel 2 so far in terms of the characters and the cast. So let me know what you think about the cast of Cold Steel 2 down in the comments below. Now, I mentioned at the top of the video that this game gave me a headache because this game blew my mind. The places that this story went, specifically closer to the end of the game, really caught me off guard. For example, Rean being Gileath Osborne's son sent me spiraling. Hold up. Wait, what? What? And then after the game ended, I just sat there in a state of disbelief, just shocked at what the game had done. And then I realized the game was still going after the credits. And when Divertisement showed up with the Crossbell logo, my hopes started rising. You see, earlier in the game, they talk about how the Azure Tree shows up in Crossbell, and they mentioned going to Crossbell. And I got excited. I was like, are we going to go to Crossbell? We're going to see Crossbell. But you only see a dinky looking Azure Tree, and it's like, oh, that's all there is. But then the Divertisement completely blew me away when they showed a 3D Crossbell, and you get to play as Lloyd and Risha going on a mission to wipe out this information so the Erebonian military doesn't get it blew my mind, and I think it broke my mic. Whoa, this is a 3D crossbow! Let's go, dude! When I saw the Azure tree and they're like, oh, we're gonna go to crossbow, I'm like, oh, we're gonna go to crossbow, and then it didn't happen, and now, holy crap, this looks cool! Dude, this game is like playing Pokemon Gold and Silver for the first time, and when you beat it, you realize you ain't done! I can control Void! So I've been playing these games over the last year and a half, and so it was just cool getting that sort of treat, that little reward of playing through these games and seeing that investment pay off in this really cool way. It was a nice surprise. There was actually one person in my chat who thought the divertisement was the worst part of the game, and I just kind of read their comment and scratched my head like, this is one of the best parts of the game. Let's go, dude! And there's a few people who even agreed that the last two chapters of the game hard carried the rest of the game for them, and I can see why. It's incredible. And while I'll admit the epilogue was a little too long in the tooth, I thought it was a good send-off for Class VII. It was something I wish Mass Effect 3 would have done with the crew of the Normandy before they patched in whatever it was they patched in a month or so after the game had released. But it was just a cool reveal, and there was some really interesting side quests that I haven't even touched on in this game, whether they're main quests or side quests. There was some really fun moments to be had in this game. For example, the sort of Among Us style mission with Blue Blanc capturing a member of Class 7, and you have to figure out who it is that's missing and who Blue Blanc is impersonating. That was so cool. I loved how it changed things up. And then you have the side mission at the end with Anton and Sharon, with him trying to win her affection and trying to go on a date with her, which, thanks to chat, I now know who Anton is and how he's actually been in every single one of the Trails games. I just never noticed. But I really liked how at the end of the epilogue, you go into the old schoolhouse and you go into the Reverie corridor, which I assume is a prototype for the one that's in Trails into Reverie. But this is where you finish out the game. This is where you send off Class 7, give them a final hoorah. But you also get rewarded with these phantasmal mirrors that allow you to play as Crow, Vita, Lloyd, Risha, Altina, and I think there's one other character I'm forgetting. But it was just a really cool surprise. And I had to sum up Trails of Cold Steel 2. That's how I would say it. It was a good surprise. It was a fun game. It was awesome. Also, shout out to the extra New Game Plus scene that revealed that Thomas Lysander is part of the Graussritter, and they've been in Erebonia this entire time. It was a cool reveal, although I wish Falcom wouldn't have hid that behind New Game Plus. Thank you to YouTube for allowing me to see that. But it was just a lot of fun to play. I loved getting to use Valimar at the end of every part of each act. Oh yeah. I loved getting to see the characters developed. I loved getting to see just all the ways that the game would surprise you with little side things like snowboarding or even the interesting side quests and those sorts of things. It was a really cool game, and it was something that I wish more JRPGs would do. They divvied up a lot of stuff and put a lot of stuff in here, but none of it really felt out of place to a degree, and I love that. And it introduced some new characters that were truly either really funny or interesting or really terrifying, like McBurn.
So how much of you is unnatural?
Me? All of me.
One of the things I've struggled with while I've played through all of these games so far is the difficulty. And I decided after Azure, I'm going to play through these games on easy. As I played through Trails of Cold Steel 2, it became more and more apparent to me that playing these games on easy is not as fun. Yes, you can bulldoze your way through the story and get all those really juicy story tidbits and all those cool moments, but it's kind of weird when you go through a battle, you finish the battle in a couple of turns, and then in the following cutscene, your characters are out of breath talking about how hard that fight was when my characters didn't even lose any health to begin with. It was weird, and it just kind of, I don't want to say cheapened the experience, but I just didn't get as much reward out of those moments or those boss battles that I think I would have had I played the game on normal or higher. As a matter of fact, as I ascended through the Infernal Tower pretty quickly at a very brisk pace, every victory over a boss just didn't really feel that great. It was like, oh, cool, I did it. And so I'm not really knocking anybody who's played these games and plays them on the lower difficulties. I totally get it. But for me, Kind of wish I had played it on normal. And that's why as I'm playing through Trails of Cold Steel 3 currently, I'm playing it through on normal because I realized playing through Cold Steel 1 and 2 on easy just didn't make me better at the game. It just taught me really bad habits and didn't really push me to understand the mechanics and try to figure things out and really do my best as a player in this combat. So overall, I spent over 70 hours playing Cold Steel 2. I did all the side quests, including the hidden ones, hit AO rank, caught all the fish, managed to even see the hidden New Game Plus scene thanks to some folks on YouTube. Cold Steel 2 was just a really cool game. I don't know if it's my favorite in the series, so I don't really know where I would rank these games so far. Probably wait until I finish Cold Steel 3 and 4 to do a ranking of the games, but I gotta say I had a really good time with Cold Steel 2, and I just really enjoyed it. If I could summarize this game in one word,
wow.
And actually, now that I think about it, while I did enjoy Cold Steel 2 for the most part, there were some things in it I was like, does this need to be in here? We saw little glimpses of it in Trails to Azure with Shirley and how she meets Ellie and how she greets Ellie. But in this game, one of the things is that Emir is known as the hot spring capital, so to speak, of Erebonia. And so you can go to the hot springs and use that to refill your health, your CP, and all that jazz. But it lends itself to some truly awkward moments where the whole keep your back clean or Rean's back needs a good washing became an ongoing joke in chat as I streamed this game. Make it as awkward to play as possible around other people. My wife's over here like, what are you playing? Hey, I didn't know that picking the teacher was gonna make her show up in the hot springs, okay? And it got so bad that when I got my stream deck, I actually created a bonk button so that way I could use that when characters were getting a little too excited. But I'm sure I missed something along the way. If there's something I missed that you want to hear about or you want to discuss, let me know down in the comments below. And for those of you who joined me live here on the channel for the adventure through Trails of Cold Steel 2, greatly appreciate all your tips, the fact that you kept spoilers out of the chat or at least tried to hide them as best as you could. And it was just fun streaming this game here on the channel with all of you, and you know, I'm really grateful for it. It was a really cool experience. And I've already started my playthrough of Trails of Cold Steel 3 here on the channel, so why not check out the playlist full of them after you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an upload or when I go live, and leave a comment down below of what you thought of Trails of Cold Steel 2. But until next time, thank you for watching. Be a deer, keep it locked here, keep your back washed. I'll see you in the next video. Trails of Cold Steel 2 picks up shortly after Trails of Cold Steel 1, in where